Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Fisker, another tier 2 EV company, a company that is doing things a little bit differently than the ones that we've talked about over the past couple days. Just to level set you, tier 2 is what I call companies that are now in production, but still not yet profitable. In this video, we'll go over some basic information about the company. If you're not familiar with Fisker, we'll talk about their manufacturing and product roadmaps and a quick discussion on the financial health and risks associated with Fisker. Let's get right into it. Fisker went public and began trading on the NYSE through a SPAC merger process back in October of 2020 that raised $1 billion for the company. Their main product that they are producing and shipping right now is a 5-passenger SUV called the Fisker Ocean. There are 3 configurations of the Fisker Ocean, starting at $37,499 with the Ocean Extreme starting at $61,499. Additional vehicles on Fisker's product roadmap slated for 2025 include the Pear, which is a compact 5-person SUV, the Alaska, which is a pickup truck, and the Ronin, which is a $385,000 sports car. One of the interesting things about Fisker that makes them different from other companies that we have recently looked at, including Lucid and Rivian, is they went a different route with their manufacturing. Instead of building purpose-built factories and investing billions of dollars, they went with the contract model. The Fisker Ocean is built in Austria right now by a contract company called Magna Steyr, which builds automobiles for other well-known auto brands, including Mercedes, Jaguar, BMW, and Toyota. Looking forward to 2025 and the upcoming models Pear and Alaska, Fisker has released that Foxconn will be doing the manufacturing for Pear in Lordstown, Ohio. And to my knowledge right now, the contract manufacturer for the Alaska will be in the US, but that contract manufacturer has not yet been announced. Here in 2023, Fisker is in their first year of production ramp up, and we keep getting updates from them as they continue to scale up the volume of manufacturing at Magna Steyr. In Q2, the production quantity was 1,022 units. Q3 just ended at the end of September, and we will get the final production numbers on November 8th when the company has their earnings call. As of September 4th, they had produced 2,101 units. They were at a volume of about 180 a day, so Q3 could be as high as 4,000 or 5,000 units production. For the year, for 2023, Fisker has announced a goal for production of between 20 and 23,000 units. And the most recent numbers that they gave us is that they are up to 300 units per day production at Magna Steyr. Fisker says that by working with proven contract manufacturing such as Magna and Foxconn, they believe they can accelerate time to market, reduce vehicle development costs, and gain access to established global supply chains. Now, for us as investors, it's going to be very interesting to watch the numbers, the financials of a company like Fisker compared to a Lucid and Rivian. This is going to be a fascinating case study to see which model yields investors the best return for their money. So as you guys know, for EV companies, I was not investing in any of these startups from 2021. As we've been talking about for a couple years, I wanted to see which ones, first of all, survived 2 years. Many of them aren't going to survive the next 2 years, much less the past 2 years. But the ones that are where we're at now, these tier 2 companies that are up in production, we're starting to get an idea what their numbers look like. And we've avoided, by waiting, the big price drops that these companies have experienced since 2021 till now. Let's look then at my green, yellow, red dashboard and see where we're at with Fisker. This is just a visual representation to you of my assessment of the risks and things that you should be looking at as an investor. When you see a lot of yellows and reds on one of these dashboards, that means you need to not just be all hyped up in emotion, but spend some time going through the financial statements. Make sure you understand the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement, and whatever plans the company has to raise additional cash, whether it be through selling debt or through diluting. The first red category we have is profitability. Now, no one expects an EV startup to be profitable, but they get a red for no profit. Fisker lost 25 cents per share on the most recent quarter, Q2, but that earnings momentum is improving, so they got a yellow on EPS momentum. Return on equity is negative, so that is an automatic red box. The cash position the company has with two recent convertible debt issuances in July and September of this year gives them a green for their cash position. With that issuance of debt, though, those two recent convertible debts, that does give them a yellow for debt to equity at 2.89. We'll look on the balance sheet and see the cash that they have, but their working capital is fine. Again, with the two most recent cash raises they did through convertible debt, working capital is green at 1.44. Revenue growth, still very early for Fisker, but I went ahead and gave them a green because they are in a revenue growth phase. As we saw with Rivian, sometimes you can have a slowdown if customer demand is not what you anticipated, but Fisker has 65,000 or so units reserved. If they can translate those reservations into customer deliveries, then I think their revenue growth rate into year two should be pretty good. Dilution risk I have as medium, just because I know that these companies, when they're in startup phase, are going to need to raise some cash. Now, Fisker has not been diluting recently. They've been selling convertible debt. But what does that mean? Convertible debt can be converted to common shares. So that is some future dilution risk that you need to be aware of as an investor. As I was filming this, I realized I forgot to update my dashboard for the dilution risk with the shares outstanding based on a recent shareholder vote that happened in August. The current shares authorized is increased from 750 million shares to 1.25 billion. So I do have that change reflected in the spreadsheet now. CEO and management, I have them as yellow. I'll talk about the CEO in just a minute before we wrap up. Short interest is really, really high on Fisker, 45% when we look at the short interest right up here at the top. That means that Wall Street really is worried about this company. Something that you should pay attention to and dig in. Why is this company being shorted so heavily? Now, if they have a turnaround story, if they have some surprise good news as an investor, if you get in low enough, that heavy short interest could work in your favor with a little squeezy action. But we need to spend a little more time understanding why Fisker is being shorted so heavily right now. Dividends is an automatic yellow. We don't expect new companies to be paying dividends, and insider trades I have marked as green because I did not see any history of insider trading. Now let's talk for a second about the CEO, Henry Fisker, his wife, and the Class B common stock, because as a retail investor, if you're not tuned in to stuff like this, it's time that you get tuned in. If you've read the filings, you know that Fisker has three classes of stock. If you haven't read them, you might not know that. They have preferred stock, of which none is issued. This is usually kept in reserve for anti-takeover measures. No issued preferred stock. The Class A common stock, you know about. The Class B stock, which is 132 million shares, gets 10 votes per share when it comes to voting on stockholder things like the vote that just happened in August. That's 1.32 billion. And those shares are held exclusively by Mr. Fisker and his wife. So essentially, the CEO and his wife have all of the voting control of this company. For some of you, you might say, well, I don't care about that. And no one ever cares until it comes to a time where something happens where they do care. So at least now you can say that you know about it. And if something happens one day where a vote doesn't go your way, it's because the Class B common shares have all of the voting power in this company. Now, this isn't some big secret. It is all disclosed in company filings, in the 10Ks, in the risk section. And I encourage you always, when you're investing in companies, to go through and read all the 10Qs, the 10Ks, and especially start with all of the risks at the beginning section of any 10K. That is where this is disclosed about the 10 votes per share for the Class B, and that Henry Fisker and his wife, Dr. Geeta Gupta, I hope I said her name right, hold greater than 90% of the voting power of Fisker's capital stock. It goes on to say in the green section that Mr. Fisker and his wife may have interests that differ from yours and may vote in a way with which you disagree and which may be adverse to your interests. I just think that that is something worth mentioning to you as a retail investor. I think it's worth us spending some time talking about these convertible notes that were issued in July and September that I have highlighted in yellow here, but I'm going to do that on a different video, maybe when they issue their earnings in November, first week in November. But it was $340 million in convertible notes and $170 million. Again, that is cash that goes to the company, but that is potential future dilution. I don't want this video to be too long, but you should be aware that those convertible notes are out there if you're invested in this company or you are thinking about investing in the company. Fisker traded as high as $31.96 in 2021, currently at $4.79. I'm very interested to see what updates they have for investors. Here on November 8th, I will be providing some follow-up coverage on Fisker and a breakdown of their earnings at that time. Between now and then, if you watch this video, thank you. And if you have questions or comments, please leave them for me down below. I'd love to know what is on your mind about Fisker. I am Tony Denaro. Thank you for watching, and I will see ya on the next video.